Good evening. Welcome to this edition of the MGEVs Community Podcast. We're here to discuss MGEVs, hoping to inform and entertain you for up to an hour. I'm Tom Sedge, T Sedge on the forum. I live in Paynton in Devon, and I'm currently driving the MG4 that you see in the picture behind me. Joining us this week are from Essex in England, Barry Hager. Welcome, Barry.
Hello and welcome to everybody. My name's Barry Hager. I'm Barry H on the forum. Behind me you can see the MG the first gen that I used to drive and own, and I'm looking to change and find perhaps another MG this time round.
We're trying to tempt you with the IM5 or 6, or maybe one of the new MGs that we're going to be talking about tonight.
That's what I'm interested in.
Great. Good to see you and welcome back, Barry. And also from Chorley Group MG in England, Innovation Development Manager, Miles Roberts. Welcome, Miles.
Hi everyone, Miles Roberts CG on the forum, currently operating three MG dealerships in the northwest of England, Chorley, Blackpool and Burnley.
And thanks as ever for joining us, Miles. And many thanks to our premium members, Sloucher, MGBGT2ZS, Very Fat Bloke, EV Cog and Lager Baloo, and Big Bear. And if you'd like what we do at MGEVs, please support us by becoming a premium member. Right, tonight's podcast we'll be talking about yet another brand new MGEV. Yes, you may have thought that you've had your fill, but there are even more models and potentially even more to come, as we may talk about later. But tonight we're going to be talking about the new MGS6. So, Miles, let's kick this off by saying, who is this car for?
Well, basically anyone who wants a really big car. So the MGS5 sits in that we've seen before and was launched earlier this year. That sits on the same platform as the MG4. This MGS6 also sits on the same platform as the MG4, so it's a modular, scalable platform. So they've blown it up in size to make it fit this new MGS6. To give you an idea, size-wise, it's slightly bigger than a Nissan X-Trail. So it's about 3 centimeters longer. The wheelbase is about 10 centimeters longer. The boot is bigger by quite a chunk. So it is a big SUV. And so basically it's trying to appeal to anyone who would have previously wanted a big SUV. Perhaps you looked at the MGHS, which is only available as a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid or a standard ICE vehicle in the UK, and thought, I like that, I want something that sort of size, but I'd like it to be electric. Well, this is actually slightly bigger than the HS. It gives you a bigger boot as well. And so it gives you that flexibility of choosing something that bit bigger. So competitors in the UK, I think, sort of VW ID4, the Skoda Enyaq, probably the Tesla Model Y. So it's that sort of size. It's slightly bigger than a Model Y actually externally. So
we're not talking Renault Scenic or Citroen C5. We're talking a larger vehicle.
The Citroen C5 Aircross, the new EC5 Aircross, is almost as big. It's about 5 centimeters shorter than this, but and a bit chunk of boot missing compared to this. And one of the things we're going to talk about actually is the storage that this car's got. It's got a massive frunk as well, which is a new thing for MG really. So yeah, the new sort of Citroen EC5 Aircross, perhaps the Vauxhall Grandland, they're sort of similar sort of size, probably the biggest Stellantis vehicles that are currently available. They're a similar sort of platform to this, size-wise, but not quite as big as this. So it's, yeah, if ultimate all-round size, if you've got massive dogs that you need taking, a couple of big St Bernards or mountain dogs or whatever, then this is probably the sort of car for you.
Okay, and it's still a 5-seater though, right?
It's still a 5-seat car, yeah. So there's no 7-seat option on this. So it's exclusively a massive boot and loads of rear space for rear passengers as well.
I think I read, is it 670 litres or something, with the seats in place? Something huge.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, 674, I think it is. Yeah, it's big. It's also got a large frunk as well. So it's around sort of 122 litres, I think, is the frunk. Which is, I mean, I genuinely think I could fit in that frunk. I'm not wouldn't be comfortable on a long journey, but I think that I could actually sort of clamber into that and fit in that.
so maybe it's a 6-seater, or a 6+1 in the front. Uh, and what about giving people a sense of where this sits in the various MG and IM vehicle ranges?
Yeah, sure.
So
So
it's
so
clearly bigger
price
than
wise,
an MGS5.
yeah. So it's basically targeted to sit between the MGS5 and the IM6. So which the sort of the comparable SUVs either side of it. So price wise, the MGS6 starts at 37,995, which is about £3,000 more than the top spec S5. And then it goes all the way up to, if you choose the dual motor version of the Trophy, it goes to 43,995. And then if you wanted to get the IM6, that starts at sort of 47,995. So sort of sort of £3,000 or £4,000 more than that as well. So it's sort of bookmarked at bookended at either side by the IM6 and the S5. It slots right in the middle in terms of that range. One thing is, though, it does cross the £40,000 threshold, which in the UK, at least, makes a difference in terms of taxation, which we can argue
Right. So
about as well.
that's the year two to year five car tax is plus 400 and something pounds, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about £410 a year
Yeah.
extra, and it's a luxury car tax supplement that's paid, as you correctly say, between years 2 and 6, so 5 years you're paying this, and it's been the same since 2017. When a luxury car probably was £40,000, but if for inflation that should now be around sort of £57,000 to adjust. But it's been frozen at £40,000 since 2017. So I would encourage the government, if they had any spare money, to look at perhaps increasing that threshold. But all of the news we're getting at the moment is that probably tomorrow, because we're filming this the day before the budget, probably that's not going to happen. But I would be enthused if they did.
Just
Well, we
hope
can
they
always
don't drop
hope.
it.
Yes. Let's hope it goes the right direction. Good
Yeah.
point, Barry. Barry, I can see in your picture of your ZS, you enjoyed the sunroof, and that's also a feature
Yes.
of the new MGS6, which the MGS5 doesn't have. Is that right, Mars?
Yeah, correct. So on the trophy spec of the MGS6, it comes with a non-opening. That's the only thing. So obviously it used to open on the ZSEV. It's a non-opening fixed panoramic sunroof, but it is over a square meter of glass, so it does lighten up the interior massively. Another feature of the S6, which I think is a nice option, is that you've got a choice of two interior colours for the trophy. So either the grey, which is sort of a dark charcoal, or a beige, which is and it's a leather look fabric, but I actually really like it in the beige interior. I think it's again with the IM5 and IM6, the option of a white or a light grey interior on that. And I think that lighter interior is something that I probably would choose if I was configuring those cars. Probably not if I was going for a white car, but if I was going for a dark color, like I saw yesterday, there was a black MGS6 with the beige interior, and that sort of contrast really looks really nice on it. It really sort of made it stand out, and it makes it look more premium, more sort of Land Rover, Range Rover sort of territory in terms of the interior. It's a really nice effect, quilting and everything. The seat quality is great, really nice.
I mean,
Yeah,
Barry,
lots of
what's your
cars have come into the UK, haven't they, where they've had light colours on the interiors in other markets, and then they've always put them in as black seats or dark grey interiors. It's
I think
welcome
that
change.
I think that MG has now got to the point where they're selling enough volume in the UK to justify having multiple colour options on the interior. So in the early days of MG, back when we were selling the original ZSEV, the volumes that we were selling were quite low, relatively speaking. And so to have a separate interior colour option for every colour would have increased the number of combinations, obviously massively, and meant much more stocking in the UK. So I think now MG's got to the state where they're selling almost 100,000 cars a year. It's in the UK. It's getting to the point where they can actually
how do
make
we
choices like that.
how do we rank as a market for MGs globally? Do you know?
We're second to China.
Really? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're actually
Yeah.
at the moment the
I
UK is the
suppose
second biggest market.
Australia market would be smaller with a smaller population, I guess. Yeah. There's
Yeah, I
still a
think
lot.
that in
Yeah. Yeah.
but bear in mind we're also that there's India is a
Yeah.
market for MG. But yeah, currently the UK is second to China. Then it's India. Then I think it's Australia. And then it
Thailand?
was Thailand's quite. I think the think 6% of cars sold in Thailand are MGs, which is
Mm.
quite a decent stat. So more than 1 in 20.
Yeah, we had quite
Um,
a few Thai members pop up on the forum from now and now. So
yeah.
Barry,
So
what's your early impression of that interior? Do you like the look of it compared? I
I
mean, it's
like the
obviously going to be a
interior,
world
yeah.
away from what you're used to, but
Well, it's quite different from, and I think it's evolved a lot from the original ZS that I had, and but I'm currently in a 69 plate Tesla Model 3 that I bought as a used car to tide me through, and I like the idea of the lighter colours on the interior, both on the IM5, which I test drove recently, and yeah, I think that interior is very smart. There's been a few reviews as well, hasn't there, on YouTube over the past few days since its announcement, and there was one thing that struck me. One comment was about the steering wheel being narrow, but it doesn't appear it in the still photographs. I don't know whether
no, I
it's
don't know
sort
what
of small to
I don't know
hold.
what. No, it didn't feel undersized or skinny in any way.
Mm,
So it didn't, but it didn't feel chunky. It didn't feel any different really to what I've got in my hand.
mm.
The driving impression, I had a chance to drive it down at Millbrook yesterday, and which I think is where the press had done their video reviews initially last week. So it was the dealer day yesterday, so I got a chance to drive it and compared it against. They were benchmarking against the Vauxhall Grandland and the Ford Explorer as well.
Mm.
Was the other car we got a chance to drive. I've driven the Ford Explorer and the Grandland before. We've got a Vauxhall dealership as part of our group, so I've done a video review of the Grandland before. And actually, in terms of Stellantis product, it's a £40,000 Vauxhall, so it's the top of their tree.
Mm.
It's their sort of flagship model, should we say? But the fit and finish of the MGS6 is way in advance of what you get in the Vauxhall. The textures used, the fabrics used, and the general fit and finish, it seems to be a lot better in the
right.
MGS6.
And
In terms of
would
the
you
actual,
go on?
I was just going to say, in terms of the actual driving on the roads, the Grandland tends to crash a little bit over bumps and potholes and things like that. Now the MGS6 Trophy's got 20-inch wheels, so it's not got like it's running on big fat tires, but it seems to absorb the bumps a lot more comfortably. It's a lot more supple through the corners. It's a lot less crashy. So I think that they've tuned the suspension really well on the MGS6. I was impressed with it.
So I was going to ask, because you're obviously familiar with the MGS5, which was a big step forward from the MG4. Um, how is the MGS6 a further step forward? In your impressions, what have you noticed that's different to the S5, or that shows that MG have been looking at an area and trying to improve it?
So I mean a lot of the functionality is very similar to the S5. So the dashboard layout is like a scaled photocopy of the S5 in many ways. So it's got the same sort of Alcantara lined wireless phone charger, which has a little fan which blows on your phone to cool it down whilst it's charging, which is useful because in my Ioniq it always overheats. It's got the 12.3-inch main display. It's got a slightly smaller driver display. So the layout and everything is very, very similar. What I would say is that the materials used, so the surround on the darker interior, the surround that they use around that line where the wireless phone charger is and where the drive mode selector is, that's on the darker interior. That's with a sort of carbon fiber woven type material, and it actually feels you've got texture to it. It's not just like a printed plastic, like in the old days.
Mhm.
MG used to do, like do a printed plastic with a sort of like motif of like a transfer of carbon fiber. This actually feels like carbon fiber now. I don't say it isn't, but it feels like carbon fiber. It's got a texture to it. It's actually, it feels like a woven surface. If you go for lighter interior color, then you get a sort of like a wood veneer effect on that center console, with a sort of light ash sort of finish to it. And And again, it looks nice. It feels nice. It's not got textures on that one. It doesn't actually have wood grain, but it's a nice thing to look at, and that continues round along the sort of midsection of the dash where the air vents are and things. That's sort of sort of horizon line. That's where that trim continues round. All of the trim on the doors, on the door cappings, on the dashboard, everything just it's all soft touch, all high up. It's all, everything that you could possibly put your arms on, lean on, whatever, is all soft touch. When I got into, I drove a Kia EV4 today, and when I got into a Kia EV4 and I put my arm on the window side, it's really hard plastic with quite a heavy texture on it. And actually, in a t-shirt, it actually sort of left an imprint on my arm, and that made me think, this is a £45,000. This is the EV4 GT Line S, but the door cappings
So
feel
that's
like
a high spec.
much.
It's a high spec one.
Oh yeah, really high spec one, but the door cappings and everything just feel cheaper somehow. So I think that's one thing that MG's managed to do really well, is the perception of quality throughout is really, really impressive.
So they're sort of aiming at getting to Mercedes-like levels of interior comfort and
Yeah, and obviously
perceived quality.
the IM5 and IM6 have shown that they know how to bolt a car together. They know how to make more premium feeling cars. So I'd say that this does quite well bridge the gap between the MG S5, which doesn't have the full leather interior options. It doesn't have the same level of finish in it. It's got a part sort of pleather and cloth interior with the MG logo and things. Whereas with the S6, if you go choose the trophy spec, that feels closer to the IM product in terms of fit and finish.
Right. So it's not just a scaled up S5.
No, although if you choose the
getting more
if you choose the SE spec, then you get the cloth seats with the MG logo running in the middle, like you do in the S5. So that again, at that price point, at being £38,000, brings it more into line with what the S5 is at that lower end.
Makes sense. And what are there any new features apart that we haven't talked about that you get in S6 that are available?
Well, I mean, you've got the option of a dual motor on the S6 Trophy. You can choose either the long range, which is a rear wheel drive at 4995, or you can choose the Trophy dual motor, which is next to £3,000.
Oh, we should say the battery. Talk about the battery in the car as well.
Oh yeah. So it's a 77 kilowatt hour battery. In the long range, that gives a range of up to 329 miles. If you have the dual motor version, it drops to 301 miles of WLTP range. So it's the additional front motor is an extra 119 kilowatts. So in total, quick check of my specs. So it's so maximum power is on the SE and the long range. It's on the Trophy. Sorry, it's 244 PS. Roughly 240 brake horsepower. On the dual motor, it's 361 PS. So it's sort of 355 brake horsepower. So it's an extra chunk of power. What I will say is, having driven both the standard and the dual motor version, I wouldn't bother with the dual motor unless I really needed it for traction purposes, because I live somewhere, that I need four-wheel drive. In terms of performance, it's 7.3 seconds versus 5.1 seconds, 0 to 62, but it doesn't feel slow on with the single motor. It doesn't feel like a slow car. 7 seconds is still a quick car. It's
a big car, isn't it? It's not really aimed at being a sports car, but it's adequate performance. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and are there any other? I mean, the IM's obviously brought in lots of tech gizmos. Are there any other new innovations on the MGS6?
So it's got the transparent chassis 360-degree cameras, which we've seen, I think, on the S5 as well. So this is a sort of technology that was originally brought in by Range Rover to show sort of, when you're off-roading, you could the idea was it basically digitally stitches together images so that you can, as you drive over a surface, you can see it effectively going under the car. So in the event that there's a rock sticking up, whatever, you can try and avoid it or what have you. At Millbrook, we had it we had a challenge of basically 4 squares that we had to try and get the tyres to line up with. We had to drive through a course with a whole load of cones, reverse back through the course, and then try and get it, you just using the transparent chassis thing to get it to sit back on top of these squares. We got graded. I was one of few to get 10 out of 10 because I'm a smug person who
Well done.
likes things less. But
Good job.
yeah, got all the wheels inside the boxes. But it is possible because it does. It really does mean that you can see exactly where you are. The good news, translated into a real world scenario, if you're in a car park and you can't see the white lines out the side of the car very easily as you're reversing, the transparent chassis means you can not only just see the top down view, but you can see effectively what's underneath as well. So you can see as you maneuver into that space, you can see how well you're doing rather than just seeing the outer edges. So that's a really useful feature. And you've got nice to have things like choice of ambient lighting, colours, and there's an option of having things like YouTube and Spotify apps on the dashboard and things. But it's
Did I see there's a head-up display?
there is a head-up display for the first time in an MG, yeah. And the IMs don't have that actually. But yes, there's a heads-up display which is got augmented reality as well. So if you've got a navigation route plotted using the built-in sat nav, that puts like bigger arrows up on the dashboard. So you actually see it on the road effectively ahead of you as you drive along. So that's quite a cool feature. It's yeah, the heads-up display. It's projected onto the windscreen, not onto a little visor that pops up on the dashboard. It's onto the actual screen itself. So yes, that is a nice feature actually. That is
I presume that's trophy only.
correct.
Right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's this all sounding, Barry? I mean, or are there other things you want to ask that you're more
Well,
interested in?
yeah, it is sounding very interesting. I mean, the fact that it sits between the S5 and the IM5 is something because going from the the Tesla Model 3 to the IM5, it is a bigger car, and sort of there are times like with the Tesla parking, getting it in a parking space and being able to open the doors can be challenging because car parks are not really built for the larger cars of today. So something which is in between, it would be, I think, worth me certainly test driving and checking out. And I do like the idea of the transparent chassis, because often I find myself having to open the door and having a look to see, am I in the box or not,
Yeah, no, it works really well actually, and it's automatic. As soon as you choose reverse, it automatically comes on, does that. So it's not like something you have to press a button and go through menus to find. And another thing I like also about the MGS6 versus a couple of other cars like the ID4 and the ENIAC that we had a chance to drive is the physical buttons you've got for the climate control and things like and the stereo and things. So you have actually got physical buttons to adjust temperatures and things rather than having to delve into menus.
And they're
So
voice
it's
activated as well.
uh, I didn't get a chance to try the voice activation
Ah,
yesterday, to be fair, so I won't. I'm not going to stake my life on that because I don't actually try it myself. I've got the full car coming. Hopefully, end of this week, start of next week. So I'll actually be able to test a few more features with more time once I've actually got the car for a full day rather than just a sort of 45-minute drive.
okay.
Do you know anything about tow bars? Because I know people with large cars often like to tow.
Uh, it has a maximum towing weight of 1,500 kilos.
Okay, that's decent.
So yeah, so that's actually you can fit a caravan on that. So that's actually not bad at all. So yeah, 1,500 kilos maximum towing weight, and that's the same for both the dual motor and the single motor variants for brakes
And
things. So yeah, actually that's pretty
I'd
damn
assume
good.
it doesn't include a tow bar. You have to have one fitted. Is that right?
Correct. We haven't got pricing for tow bars yet. I imagine that MG will let us know that the MG's moving back to a situation where dealers are going to fit accessories like tow bars. Originally, it was that they weren't going to supply tow bars, and you had to go to an outside third party to get a tow bar fitted. But MG is starting
Yes.
to introduce them for their own models now.
Okay, so they're probably making it simpler because I remember on the MG4, you have to have a special wiring harness. It's very complicated. There's bodywork they have to change and all sorts.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah.
good. It's good to hear that they're making it simpler and possible at the dealer. What about? I mean, people will always ask this, so I'll ask it. What about? Does it have a heat pump?
It doesn't have a heat pump. I've been trying to explain to people about heat pumps because obviously I've driven a lot of electric cars with heat pumps, etc. over recent times. My Ioniq 5 has got a heat pump. It was absolutely no help to me on my journey I did yesterday because it was damp, it was wet, and if I turned the air conditioning off, then the glass steams up. So the heat pump's great on a day like today where it was dry and sunny but cold, because then the heat pump can just do its thing. The reason for this explanation, I put it on the forum earlier, but I'm going to say it again now just to try and explain it. So air conditioning systems in cars have a condenser, which is like a radiator at the front of the car, and then they have something called the evaporator, which is like your heater matrix, and sits inside the dashboard. And the way that it makes the air cold and dry is that it passes the air over the evaporator in the dashboard. As it passes over this cold surface, it both loses temperature, hence cold, and also, a bit like happens to, if you have a cold pint of beer on a hot summer's day, moisture clings to the outside of the glass and drips down, and you get condensation. It's not your beer leaking out of the glass, thank God. It's actually the warm, moist air coming in contact with the cold surface, and that forms condensation. That condensation runs down the outside of the glass. What happens with the evaporation of the dashboard is that as the air blows across it, any moisture in the air hits this cold surface, runs down the surface of the evaporator, goes hopefully through a little drain plug and out the bottom of your car and forms a puddle. And then you get people asking on the internet forums, why's my car leaking? So that's how it dries the air. So air conditioning is used to dry the air. Now, if you don't have a heat pump, what happens is that the air is dried out by passing it over the evaporator, then it's passed over a heater matrix, which then warms it back up again. And so usually that in an electric car, it's a PTC heater, which is a slightly more efficient heater compared to a normal resistive heater. What happens if you've got a heat pump is that a heat pump uses the same components as air conditioning. So what it does is it basically changes the flow round of the refrigerant. So the radiator at the front of the car normally gets really hot because it's got hot compressed refrigerant going in through there. So when you change it around the other way, what happens is that the evaporation of the dashboard gets hot instead. So as air blows across that then gives heat to the air, and the warm air comes into the interior. The downside of that is that air is not getting dried out. It's just getting warmed up. And so what you tend to find if you've got a heat pump equipped car like I do, if you turn off the air conditioning but you put heating on, it'll get warm, but you'll steam up really quickly in the car. If you press the way to get it to demist is you either press the demist button, which turns on air conditioning for you, or you press air conditioning. As soon as you do that, the heat pump stops being a heat pump, goes back to being air conditioning. The only way it can then heat the air is by passing it over the PTC heater, which it has for this sort of functionality, which basically means the heat pump isn't working. So on all those journeys that you do in the UK with your heating on, if you think in your electric car, how often do you have the air conditioning on so it doesn't steam up? Or have you tried turning the air conditioning off for a long period of time so that you don't run the air conditioning, and you'll notice it steams up very quickly because we have a lot of moist air in the UK because we're an island surrounded by water. Then work out, okay, so on these days when I'm not using the air conditioning, those are the days when a heat pump would benefit me.
Right.
Every other time, it makes no odds. So for me yesterday, I got 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour average on my Ioniq 5, which is equipped with a heat pump. But that's because the heat pump wasn't doing anything. It was all just air conditioning.
Right. That's really useful to know. I mean, I must say I don't have a heat pump in my MG4, but I always, as I have on all cars I've had for years, I've always have the AC on all the time, precisely for that reason. That it just means it never misses up. Plus, it's good for the system to run it.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah.
Rather than turn it off for the winter or the summer, whichever way around you want to do it. Yes, that makes sense. I have heard though, I don't know if Barry knows anything about this, that Teslas do some very clever stuff with scavenging recovery heat and other things which raises their efficiency, which
Yeah,
are
they
part of that heat
use.
pump.
Yeah, they've got this special thing, which is called an octavalve, and basically it's a big aluminium block with lots of different valves and things, and it shuffles around coolant between the motors, the battery, the cabin, and the outside, the evaporator, as it were, outside, or condenser. So it juggles all of those things together, and it kind of has multiple cores, so it will, although it will do the cooling bit to dry the air, it then has a further heat exchanger which then puts the heat in. So rather than using a PTC to do it. I've got the older model, which hasn't got the heat pump, and my car was totally immobilised on the drive one day because the heater had an insulation fault on it, and it had to be
Right.
recovered from my driveway.
Oh
It's a
dear.
common fault on them, apparently.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So there are some cars on the market that have another level of sophistication in the efficiency heat recovery. Maybe a greater flexibility is the way I would view that. But a lot of people who ask for a heat pump,
They don't know what they're asking for.
they don't know what they're asking for. They may get something which isn't that helpful, as I think what I take from this conversation. If it's just the
Yeah,
conventional
and typically
installation.
with cars like ID4 and the Skoda Enyaq, it's £1,000 option to get a heat pump on top of that.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
it's something that may be of limited usage and high cost initially to get that option added.
Do you have any sense of the efficiency of the MGS6? Because we've had it. Well, I remember when the MGS5 came out, people were amazed. It was much more efficient than the MG4. It was actually lighter. It seemed like a lot of work had gone into the engineering of it. But the MGS6 is a much bigger car, so presumably heavier with a heavier battery pack. Do you get any feel from that from your tests?
I mean, not from the short journey I did yet. To be fair, because we were swapping drivers and swapping cars every sort of 10 minutes. So we only got like 10. We got 10 minutes in a dual motor, then we got 10 minutes in a single motor, then we got 10 minutes in a Grandland, then we got 10 minutes in another single motor, then another dual motor, and then a Explorer. So you don't get a chance to sort of work out because you keep swapping between the cars. According to the official figures, 329 miles for a 77 kilowatt hour battery. I think it's going to do about 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour. I think that yesterday, I remember looking down at the dashboard and it was on 70 odd percent and it said 270 miles, which sounded pretty good to me. So I don't know how accurate that is. I'll find out more, next week when I get my actual car and I'll be able to drive it for a full day and sort of see how we get on.
Sure, sure.
But I'd say, on a day yesterday when it was sort of, very wet and, 4 or 5 degrees centigrade, so not ideal temperatures, and lots of people opening and closing the doors all the time, it looked like 300 miles was possible out of the single motor vehicle.
Okay, that sounds good. And okay, what we haven't talked about so far is when is it available?
So each dealership is receiving 2 demonstrators within the next 7 to 10 days. So each dealership should get, hopefully they're going to get a dual motor and a single motor trophy of each. But there may be some, might not be enough dual motor cars to go around, so they might have 2 single motor vehicles. Hopefully there would be different specifications of interior so that you could at least compare the 2 interior colours. And then they've got only a few cars to see them through December, but we don't usually sell many cars in December because everyone goes, it's Christmas, we don't really want to register a car now, we'll rather have it next year and have it as a 2026 on the registration V5. The good news is that certainly by sort of late January, early February, there should be quite a few hundred cars coming across, and so by March we should be up and running with a decent stock, which is realistically when most people will want to take delivery of their cars, I think. So yeah, we're probably looking at you may well be able to get a car now if you really, really wanted to. One thing I will say is that we haven't actually got the finance offers live yet, so they're due by the end of, I think by the start of next week for December. So we should have those at the start of December, and we'll know what the finance figures look like then.
Right. So that includes what any available discounts or affinity scheme, APRs, and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And do you know if this car is any different for the qualifying for electric car grant?
MG doesn't qualify for the electric car grant in the UK. By virtue of being a Chinese car company, they've pretty much excluded them from that. So yeah, MG currently doesn't have any models which qualify, and that won't change with this model.
Okay. But what's happened in the past is there's been hefty discounts which have made, as well as the cars being a good value, competitive price, shall we say, in the first place, there have been some hefty discounts on offer for other new vehicles like the IMs,
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
MGS5 itself has been
I would
available at
certainly
some very big discounts. Yeah,
I would certainly say that very few people pay the full RRP.
right.
Unfortunately, the government still regards the full RIP as being the tax point.
Yeah,
Yep, totally. I agree with that.
yeah, absolutely
And
right, Barry.
I've had that discussion previously with management as well. Basically, they have to leave a margin in there for them because in the event of changes in exchange rate and things like that, they have to have enough room to be able to adjust pricing without, well, adjust the level of
Margin
discount
without
perhaps
adjusting the
without.
price, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
So,
Yeah. Now, a couple of questions that everyone always asks, and you love answering. Does it have over-the-air software updates?
it has the capability to do so, and I have news.
Ooh, perhaps we should go to the news. Breaking
Dun
news
dun
from
dun.
Miles.
So they're currently trialing over-the-air updates in the UK and hope to roll it out for models which have the capability to do over-the-air updates, which would be the IM5, IM6, Cyberstar, and also the MGS5, the MGS6, and possibly the MG4 as well, towards the second half of next year. Initially, they're going to do it with the IM5 and IM6 first because they've got the fastest processors and they've got the smallest volume of cars on the road, so it makes it easier if anything goes wrong to sort them out.
Yeah.
Basically, if they launch it with the MG4, where we've sold tens of thousands
Zillions.
of them, it would be the yeah. Let's start with let's do that one last. So we're gonna start with the IM5 and IM6, and then probably the Cyberstar, and then they'll roll it out to the other models as well. So it has the capability. The biggest stumbling block, speaking to them yesterday, was that it's been the certification for getting the ability to do it. I've got a mate that works at Sellafield, and they've got they've got a couple of MG5s as pool cars around the plant, and there's stickers on the dashboard saying, "Do not connect any MOD handsets to this Bluetooth device,
Right.
and do not hold any conversations other than official, but with say, do not have any conversations above official within the vehicle."
Right. So it's about it being a Chinese car and the security
Yeah,
implications of it
yeah,
automatically updating. Yeah.
yeah. I said, I did say to my mate, I said, to be fair, they haven't even sorted out being able to update the BMS via OTA. They've only got a 1 GB data chip in the SIM card. I really don't see it being an issue.
Yeah. Well, they were bidding to build our nuclear power stations at one point. But anyway. Yes. All right. So that's great news actually. So that's coming next year. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. It was promised on the MG4 as it being capable from launch, so I assume it will eventually. But it does sound like that would be last, just to set people's expectations for the reasons that you said. The other thing is, people always ask is, can you turn off the ADAS systems using MG Pilot like you can on the MGS5?
Yes, you can. In exactly the same way.
Fantastic.
So yeah, you've got a shortcut button that you can set up the MG Pilot safety features the way that you like them, and then once you're happy with that, you can save that as your preference, and then it's just a scroll down click to be
Yeah,
able to
and
get
I
that
guess
into
that's
your menu.
important for you, Barry, because since you had your ZS, and since I got my MG4, there's even more systems now. The driver monitoring has to be there. There's various
Yeah, I
bing
mean, my
bongs and bings that are
my
going on.
original one, I had the comfort update because mine
Hmm.
was I took delivery of mine in January 2020, and so didn't do very many miles in the first year because of the events of the
COVID.
world. But yeah, once I got that comfort update done, the bings and bongs were significantly better because the early version was really, really bad for that. It pinging at you loudly about anything you did, even though it didn't have driver monitor. And I was able to then disable everything, and it stayed disabled basically. There were ways around it. I think later models then you lost that ability to be able to switch
That's
things
right.
off permanently, didn't you?
That's right. Well, certainly with the
Basically.
MG4, a lot of the
Mm,
systems by then, because it's the date when Euro NCAP test the car
mm,
that counts. By then, it had to have them on by default for a lot of things. So that's when there were a lot of complaints about it. Every time I change it, it resets the next time I drive. But the
mm,
philosophy for the regulator is that they don't know. The car doesn't know who's going to be driving it, and that person would expect the safety systems to be on if it's somebody new. And
mm,
so that's why you have to proactively turn stuff off. But even with the MG4, a lot of the systems have been improved by software updates. And although I still go in and turn off certain things I don't like, it doesn't take very long. It's such a reflex. But the pilot system is even easier. It's just a few button taps to save. You can save all your settings, and then it remembers everything. That's my understanding, Miles. Is that right?
Yeah, so you can choose what you like, and then you can save it, and then you've got just like a single, go to Barry's preference, whatever, and then click that,
mm,
and that's you set up for how you like it. What talking about safety kit actually, it's worth mentioning the MGS6 EV has got a 5-star Euro NCAP rating, and that's on the latest version of the testing cycle. So some of the Euro NCAP and all testing facilities they basically make the test tougher year on year. So a car that got 5 stars in 2020 might not even get 2 or 3 stars in 2025. So that's another thing to consider when you're looking at a car, for example, like the ID4 or the ENIAC that's been out a longer period of time, is that 5-star rating that it got in 2022 might not be the same as a 5-star rating that the MG6 has got this year. But the 5-star rating is excellent. I mean, obviously it's the best you can get at the moment. Adult occupancy was 92%, validity 85% for the child occupant. Vulnerable road users was 84%, and the safety assist was 78%. It's really interesting actually. If you go to euroncap.com to look at the actual videos showing how the car does and how how the auto brake functions and everything work, and what it's designed to avoid, to mitigate car damage. So things like and it also helps to explain when some of these systems, when they beep at you because it's activated as you're driving along thinking you're driving normally, what it is that you're actually doing that might be perceived by that car as being a threat. So if you're coming up too close to a car that's turning left slowly into a driveway, it might well beep at you, and it might even tap the brakes to try and get you to stop, because it doesn't know that you're going to be able to swerve out at the last second to overtake it. It might think that you're effectively on a path to run in the back of it. If you make a steering input, it won't beep at you.
Mm.
But if you don't do the steering input and you're keeping on a straight path, it doesn't know that
mm.
you're going to. It doesn't know that you're completely oblivious to this guy still sticking out in the road ahead of you. So it's things like that that I think by watching the videos you'll see. Obviously, how safe the cars are built now, which is great. I think there's something like 80% of the somewhere here. Wrote a little booklet with my training yesterday, which has got some things in. Just double check. Did it say safety? 81% high strength steel in the body shell. Can't be 100% because it wouldn't crumple and it wouldn't be very safe in that sense. But 81% high strength steel in the body shell, and it's got triple load paths to distribute the energy. So the front crumple zone effectively just doesn't go via a single construction member. It goes down 3 different sides, which again helps to spread the load damage around the vehicle. So it's got 16 ADAS features, including the MG Pilot. So it's got a lot of stuff going. And I say on Euro NCAP, it literally shows you video for pretty much everything. So cyclists driving across the front of you, pedestrians out the front, turning a corner while somebody else is crossing the road. It's all in there, and it's quite impressive to see, really.
Fantastic. Is
And
there? Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, and Euro NCAP website is also a useful source for other information, which we can come on to later.
Yeah. Now, before we do that, is there anything else that we haven't mentioned, or anything you'd like to ask Barry about the MGS6?
Well, the MG Pilot actually, it seems now in Europe that there is going to be some perhaps relaxation about auto steer and self-driving and things like that. I think that cars have been, in recent years, have actually been built with more technology in them to enable them to do stuff which the regulators have held them back. Is there anything in terms of the way in which the MG Pilot has got new features that might be of interest?
I would say that the difference with the MG Pilot system that I've used now in the MGS6 versus previous systems is it seems to be it drives more like I would. So it keeps the lane centering is smoother. It's not sort of ping ponging off the lanes as it used to in the early versions. The braking and acceleration as as a car in front slows down or speeds up seems smoother. So I'd say that in terms of the actual usability of it, it seems to be a lot better implemented. What it's capable of beyond that, I don't know if there's any further software to unlock or not. I don't know. MG haven't told us that they have any plans to bring out a more full
Right.
self-driving
So it
capability within
doesn't do automatic lane change, things like that, which I think the IMs do.
that. Did it do
Or
automatic
does it?
lane change? Let me just double check.
I'm just
I can't
thinking of the
remember.
kind of things you could find on a Tesla, depending on which Tesla you
Yeah,
have.
I mean, one of the disappointments with the Tesla, I've got enhanced autopilot, auto steer, is that you have to keep contact with the steering wheel and keep some sort of movement on it for it to know you're there. But you move slightly too much, it disengages. Where when I had the MG, you could, it was really a driving assist that you could steer it and it would still stay engaged, but then bring you back into the lane. So you could go around potholes and things without disengaging the whole system.
Yeah,
So the
so
MG was certainly better than Tesla in that respect.
so that's one thing that the MGS6 has got now. Actually, is that they have specifically allowed a little bit of fuzzy logic in it, so that you can steer around things like potholes, and it will still allow that. It does have lane change assist, a standard
Okay.
on even on the SE. So on all of the models, actually, looking at the MG Pilot, all of them. So the SE long range as well as the Trophy and the dual motor all come with every function. So they've got the MG Pilot custom function, so you can save your preference. They've got adaptive cruise control with intelligent cruise assist. They've got active emergency braking with pedestrian and bicycle detection. Lane keep assist with lane departure warning system. Traffic jam assist. Intelligent speed limit assist with traffic sign recognition. Intelligent high beam assist. Driver monitoring system, so it checks if you're yawning or whatever. And there's a couple of different menus. Yeah, so you have to, if you yawn 3 times within 5 minutes, then it warns you. It comes up on a thing, beeps and says maybe consider taking a break. Blind spot detection, lane change assist, active rear cross traffic alert, and it's got door open warning as well. So like you might have seen on the new Volvo adverts where it shows someone
Oh,
about
yeah.
to open the door and it's beep beep beep, because there's somebody in the blind spot. So yeah, so all that's a standard on all the models, as well as obviously the full feature of all of the airbags and everything else. So yeah, that's one good thing, is that with MG the safety isn't optional.
No.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. All right, fantastic. So that's the MGS6. More details and driving experiences coming in future podcasts. Report back. Now, that isn't the end of the new MGs that will be coming. We know this because of activity in the press and various leaks, which Miles was hinting at from NCAP and other organisations. Now, there's a bunch of possible cars we can look forward to. The first one is the rumoured smaller MG EV, or MG2 possibly. We don't know what it will be called, which has been rumoured for quite a while by outlets like Auto Express. It's a sort of, as I understand it, Volkswagen are doing the ID2 all smaller car, which is coming below the ID3. And that's not what it looks like. That's an artist's impression of what it might look like from Auto Express. But yeah, have you guys heard any rumors or anything about this new small MG EV?
So it wasn't mentioned at all on the training yesterday. What I would say is that MG are looking to fill a model for every possible option. So as we've seen with this MGS6, with the MGS5, with the MG4, with the MG3, with the MG ZS, HS plug-in hybrid, MG are trying to cover every base, now obviously the IM5 and IM6 as well. It makes sense for them to have a sub £20,000 EV, because obviously Dacia has got one. The Hyundai Insta can be got under £20,000 now, thanks to some discounting. The Citroen EC3 as well is around that sort of £20,000 mark.
There's things like the
So
Twingo coming out next year, isn't there? The year after.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So though that low end of the lower price segment, shall I say, of the market, is one which MG should be in, because MG are all about cost-effective transport solutions. And we've seen that with the MG4, with and everything else. So I think that if they made a slightly smaller MG4 that was under £20,000, I think it would sell very well. And I fully understand that they will be aiming to launch a vehicle within that market segment within the next 12 to 18 months.
Fantastic. And you actually mentioned the next one I want to bring on to, which is we've heard a couple of, well, there's a few things that people have seen. There's a new car called the MG4 in China, which looks different to the car that we're used to. That's it there. And there's also been rumours for a long time, and people are hearing this from their dealers as well, about the current MG4 we have getting some kind of midlife update or refresh. I think principally around the interior is what I've heard.
Yeah. So
Can we clear up the confusion here? Because people look at that and think that's a different, that looks different. Is the MG4 we've got going to look like that? What's going on here with this Chinese car? What do we
yeah.
know?
So world markets are strange. So the MG4 has sold really, really well in the UK. It's the right size for our market. It's a golf-sized hatchback. It was a competitive price point. It's right for our market. And it's sold about 30% of all EVs sold by MG were MG4s last year. So it shows that it's doing well. The MG4 in China didn't get the same uptake, so they decided to do a complete new model, call it the MG4, but on a completely different platform. So that's a lower cost model. It's a front wheel drive platform. It comes with a choice of two battery sizes, the bigger of which gives you around 240, 250 miles WLTP. But it's actually overall, it's actually a slightly bigger car. It's slightly taller, slightly longer than the current MG4. I don't know if Chinese people like wearing hats. Maybe that's why they want a higher roofline. But it's so it's a different car, completely different car. Having said that, that car may still come to the UK in the future. It's currently being evaluated. I saw David Allison has put on Autocar. I spoke to them and said basically, we're evaluating as to whether it may come to UK and Europe in the future. No decision's been taken at this moment. It would have to be at a compelling price point for the type of vehicle. I can see it almost being a bit like, when Volkswagen launched the Fox, which was a sort of South American built.
Yeah.
It was slightly bigger than a Polo, but it was priced less than a Polo. And I can sort of see that the Chinese MG4 might fall into that sort of remit, where it's not. It ends up being slightly cheaper than the MG4, but it's not smaller. It's actually a slightly bigger car, but it's a different specification level. The current MG4, again, from reading Autocar and Auto Express and everywhere else that's sort of been speaking to people, is getting an MGS5 style makeover for the interior of the dashboard. So it'll have the same sort of floating center console, Alcantara lined.
Right. A bigger central screen, bigger driver's
bigger
screen.
center. Yeah, so it's basically just going to, if you got the dashboard out of an S5 and squashed it into MG4, that's basically what it'll look like.
Right.
So I think that facelift is due early next year. Again, sort of, by March, those new MG4s will be in dealerships.
Excellent. We got that coming, but that's not the end of it all. There's a new leak, which I think this one was via Euro NCAP for the MGS9 PHEV. Tell us about
Yeah.
this.
So Australia. We have some Australian viewers. We have in the past. We've had some people come on the forum with it, on the podcast with us. So the Australian market have this vehicle known as the MGQS, and it is a 7-seat really big SUV. So it's bigger than the MGS6, which, as we've already ascertained, is a big car. This is sort of Kia Sorento, maybe slightly bigger than that. Sort of, it's a big SUV. It's sort of 5 meters of a thing, like a foot longer than the S6. But it's a seven-seater. It's a proper seven-seater where actual adults can fit in the back seats. Now it's big and chunky. In Australia, it's sold with a 2-litre petrol engine. It's not sold as a plug-in hybrid. According to the Euro NCAP results and filings, it shows it's coming with a 1.5-litre petrol engine, which suggests that it's going to get the same drivetrain as the MGHS plug-in hybrid, which has got a 24.7 kilowatt-hour battery, giving a range of about 70 to 75 miles on electric, and then beyond that, it becomes a petrol generator. So based on that, and again, I expect that this will be they'll leave it till after Christmas now because I don't see us dragging us down to Millbrook for another training day. But the MGS9 plug-in hybrid, I would imagine to be in dealerships in the spring. So
Wow.
it's no confirmation of pricing as yet, but again, you can look on the sort of
Miles,
Chinese.
you're going to need a bigger showroom. How are you going
This
to
is
have
this is definitely an
big
issue. So
vehicles?
we built a brand new showroom in Chorley as a big gin palace of an MG showroom, which we currently have 5 or 6 cars in. And unfortunately, MG currently offer about 12 different variations. If you include the plug-in hybrids and the petrols and everything else, they sell a lot of cars, and they're launching a load more. So I think our only option really is to go industrial. I think we're going to need like a hangar to put everything in, or we're going to have to put like tents over the forecourt so that we have a more internal storage, for people to keep dry whilst looking around the cars, because it's an issue. It really is an issue that we've got. I don't think we can fit every car into the showroom. I suppose that other brands, like Audi and stuff, probably have this issue. They have big showrooms because they have lots and lots of cars. But yeah, we're getting to that point. So this is part of the new brand standards, which the manufacturers has let us know of, is that basically, yeah, we need to be able to have a Cyberster area. We need to have the IM5, IM6 area, and there might be other IM models coming in the future as well, depending on how well the IM5 and IM6 sell, which at the moment they've got a 20-week lead time because they've sold out of production. So that gives
Mm.
you an indication of how well the IM5 and IM6 are selling at the moment.
I think they'll do very
So
well over here. Yeah.
yeah, so I really I want the IM9 to come. Have you seen the IM9? That's got
Yes.
66. So that's a plug-in hybrid. It's a bit like the Kia EV9. It's a big bus of a 7-seat thing or 6-seat. But it's got a 66 kilowatt hour battery and a petrol engine as an extended range electric vehicle rather than being a plug-in hybrid. It's extended range electric vehicle, so it's got a range of about 200 miles on electric, and then beyond that, it's got petrol range. So
Right.
for
A bit like the
99% of
old
the time,
BMW i3 range extender concept. Yeah.
yeah, or the
But
going back even
bigger.
further, the Vauxhall Ampera, the Chevy
Yeah.
Volt.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I think the 200-mile electric range would actually see to day-to-day requirements for 99% of people. And the petrol
Right.
engine on that means you've got a total range possible of about 900 miles. So on a full tank, including the electric. So, a journey like I did yesterday, I wouldn't need to stop to charge. And a lot of the journey, I could have got down there on electric, but, rather than spending £50 at a rapid charge to get back, I could just driven back on petrol. It probably worked out cheaper, to be fair.
That's a good point. And
Mm.
also, the last one in my list was the Cyber X, which we've seen before, rumored,
Mm.
which is a big boxy. Is it? I mean, to me, it looked a bit like a Range Rover, but
So I'm told that this is actually not as big as it looks. So
okay.
it looks like a Defender there, doesn't it? It looks sort of Defender
Mm.
90 sort of sized. Um, I've heard rumours that when this comes, it might be closer to a sort of 5-door version of a Suzuki Jimny sort of size, which I think actually would be a really good seller for MG, because the Suzuki Jimny was a real sort of cult car.
Yeah.
The most recent one, the residual values on those are huge. People just want them. and can't get hold of them because they stopped doing the passenger version because they couldn't pass the emissions. They ended up just doing it as a two-seat commercial version. They still sold loads of them. So I think that if they did that well, if they went slightly smaller, so if they went more to the sort of you say sort of Jimny sort of size market, or I suppose more like the size of the MGS5 footprint, but obviously chunkier. I think that would probably sell quite well. But that's going to be another 2 years at least. I can't see that coming this year. I
Right.
can't. But
Well,
MG have surprised me a lot of
we've
times
already
this year.
said
So
we've already said you don't know where to put it.
yeah,
All right, we are drowning in new MGs. Well, that's brilliant, and we've used our hour, so thank you very much, gentlemen. And thank you, folks. Just to remind you all, if you vote in our forum poll, you can help decide the topic for our next podcast using the link, which will be in the video description. You can also find the audio version of this podcast on all good podcast providers. Just search for MG EV's Community Podcast. That's it for us tonight. Many thanks to the volunteer moderators who help keep our forums running smoothly, Olb, Coulomb, Rolf, and MG Clive. And many thanks from Stuart to the podcasters who dedicate their time to share their wisdom with the community. My personal thanks to you two. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Miles. And if you found this podcast useful, please click on the like button and don't forget to subscribe to be notified about future podcasts. Goodbye, folks. Until next time.
Bye.